Good afternoon, everyone. We're on page 706, and I'll start to read at line 1261. We are moving through this long prophecy which the Supreme Lord makes to Savitri after granting her wish, after saying, "Your will is mine." And first of all, we saw that he tells Savitri what this is going to mean for her, what her personal experience will be. And then he tells her, "Descend to life, with him thy heart desires." And he explains to her the significance of Shraddhavan and of herself. And we read that as long as human mind and human heart are clouded by the ignorance, the two of them will be reborn in human forms, and that they will be almost invisibly spreading the influence of the divine. But then at the top of page 705 he says, "But when the hour of the divine draws near," the divine fulfillment, I suppose, "the mighty mother shall take birth in time, and God be born into the human clay in forms made ready by your human lives." So it's as if through the centuries, Savitri and Shraddhavan will be born as in human forms, and they will be spreading the divine influence and preparing for that hour of the divine, when the Supreme Divine Mother and the Lord himself will be born into the human clay in forms that have been prepared by that evolutionary effort through many human lives. And then he tells what will happen then. "Then shall the truth supreme be given to men, to humanity." So I'm going to read on from page 706, line 1261. "The Immanent shall be the witness God, watching on his many-petalled lotus-throne, his actionless being and his silent might, ruling earth nature by eternity's law. A thinker waking the inconscient world, an immobile center of many infinitudes in his 1,000-pillared temple by time's sea. Then shall the embodied being live as one who is a thought, a will of the divine, a mask or robe of his divinity, an instrument and partner of his force, a point or line drawn in the infinite, a manifest of the imperishable. The supermind shall be his nature's fount. The Eternal's truth shall mold his thoughts and acts. The Eternal's truth shall be his light and guide. All then shall change. A magic order come, overtopping this mechanical universe. A mightier race shall inhabit the mortal's world. On nature's luminous tops, on the spirit's ground, the Superman shall reign as king of life, make earth almost the mate and peer of heaven, and lead towards God and truth man's ignorant heart, and lift towards Godhead his mortality. A power released from circumscribing bounds, its height pushed up beyond death's hungry reach. Life's tops shall flame with the immortal's thoughts. Light shall invade the darkness of its base. Then, in the process of evolving time, all shall be drawn into a single plan. A divine harmony shall be earth's law. Beauty and joy remold her way to live. Even the body shall remember God. Nature shall draw back from mortality, and spirit's fires shall guide the earth's blind force. Knowledge shall bring into the aspirant thought a high proximity to truth and God. The supermind shall claim the world for light and thrill with love of God the enamored heart, and place light's crown on nature's lifted head, and found light's reign on her unshaking base. A greater truth than earth's shall roof in earth and shed its sunlight on the roads of mind. A power infallible shall lead the thought. A seeing puissance govern life and act. In earthly hearts kindle the immortal's fire. A soul shall wake in the inconscient's house. The mind shall be God vision's tabernacle, the body intuition's instrument, and life a channel for God's visible power. All earth shall be the Spirit's manifest home, hidden no more by the body and the life, hidden no more by the mind's ignorance, An unerring hand shall shape event and act. The Spirit's eyes shall look through nature's eyes. The Spirit's force shall occupy nature's force. This world shall be God's visible garden house. The earth shall be a field and camp of God. Man shall forget consent to mortality and his embodied, frail impermanence. Maybe we're starting this side. Huh? Yeah.
This image shall be the witness God, watching on his many-petalled lotus-throne, his actionless being and his silent mind, ruling earth nature by eternity's law, a thinker making the inconscient world, an immobile center of many infinitudes, in his 1,000-pillared temple by time's sea.
Yes. The immanent, the divine dwelling in all the forms and movements of the universe. That the divine in that immanent, indwelling form will be the witness God watching. He will be sitting on his many-petalled lotus throne, and he will be watching his own actionless being and his own silent might ruling earth nature by eternity's law, the law of eternity. He will be playing the role of a thinker, waking up the world of inconsciousness, but at the same time, he will be an immobile, unmoving center of many infinitudes, many, many infinite states, dwelling in his 1,000-pillared temple by time's sea. As if time is a great ocean and that temple where the Lord is dwelling, a magnificent 1,000-pillared temple. There he will be the center of many different kinds of infinity. Working in the world, imposing the law of eternity in the world, watching that action going on without himself moving. His own being is actionless. His power is silent. But together they rule earth nature by eternity's law.
Is there any significance about the 1,000 pillars?
There must be. Each of these numbers, 10, 100,000, a lakh, a million, all these numbers have some occult significance, but I'm sorry, somebody else will have to do that research. I'm not sure about them. I know Shraddhavan has spoken to us about it once, but I don't remember exactly what he said.
Generally, this
Here we speak about the thousand.
Thousand-petaled lotus.
Yes, yes.
There is a temple in Madurai, which is has 1,000 pillars.
I think that several of our South Indian temples, they have 1,000-pillared hall, no? Also in Chidambaram, I think. Yes. But exactly what is the significance of this 1,000 columns? It'll be nice if somebody looks it up.
Here when it says think awaken, they conscious one.
Yes, so it is the divine working, but one of his actions will be through the mind, a thinker waking up the world, the aspects of this world which are still inconscient.
But that means that he himself is thinking.
He's expressing himself as the thinker.
Because he's not active, he is not moving.
He doesn't move, and he doesn't think. Only this projection of himself through the human mind is one of his actions.
So to our mind.
The mind of that time, when the embodied being is something completely different from what it is now. That's what comes in the next sentence. Yeah? Martin, you would read?
Then shall the embodied being live as one who is a thought, a will of the divine, a mask or robe of his divinity, an instrument and partner of his force, a point or line drawn in the infinite, a manifest of the imperishable.
Yes. Again, we seem to have this synchronicity with the life divine. We were reading about something about the supramental, the Gnostic being. So this corresponds to that description. The embodied being here in the material world will not be living as we do, as ignorant, half-conscious beings. He will be living as one who is an embodied thought and will of the divine, who in his outer nature as an individual being is like a mask. Actually, the word person comes from the Greek word for a mask. It's a kind of, particularly the mask that the actors put on. So, within, he's representing the divinity. In the world, for the action of the world, he puts on a particular persona, a particular mask or robe. And he acts as an instrument and partner of the divine force. In himself, he's a point or a line drawn in the infinite. In geometry, a point has no dimensions, and a series of dimensionless points creates a line in the infinite that has no beginning and no end. This is a manifest, a way of expressing the imperishable, the one who cannot die, the supreme, the eternal. The embodied beings will be like that. That is how they will live, as conscious instruments and partners of the divine force, representing the divine at work, and representing also something in infinity, a manifest, an expression of the imperishable. Narendra.
The supermind shall be his nature's fount. The eternal truth shall mold his thoughts and acts. The eternal truth shall be his light and guide.
So this is a very clear summing up of it, no? The supermind, that highest creative level of nature, will be the fountain of the nature of the embodied being. And the eternal's truth will be molding, shaping his thoughts and his actions, and it will be his light and guide, showing him which way to go.
Shraddhavan?
Yes.
I have a question about line 1274. The supermind shall be his nature's fount.
Yes.
What's difficult for me to understand is that supermind is a fount. In my mind, it was the result of the nature.
But it's also the source. But probably you were not with us when we were reading the first part of the Life Divine. But there, Sri Aurobindo speaks of the supermind as actually the creative level from which all the other levels have manifested. Yeah. So it is both. In the involutionary order, it's not the very top, but very near the top. And everything else emerges from it. And the evolving line, it is the summit we are aiming for now. Just in one of our Life Divine classes, perhaps it was last week, Sri Aurobindo mentioned that then the next level would be the Ananda.
Later on also he says they will be like Godheads.
Yes. But already what he's describing here, it's a kind of Godhead, no? An embodiment of the divine, living, an individual living in the world as an embodiment, representative expression of the Supreme.
Sorry, I have a silly question, but the embodiment of the divine, is it really in an individual, or does Sri Aurobindo mean that this is what all of us will be in the future?
Well, in a way, that's what all of us are already, no? Only in a very distorted and imperfect manner. But here he particularly speaks about the embodied being, the embodied existence, the pure existence, will live as one, as an individual, amongst all the other individuals. But there will be many of them will be living as instruments and partners of the divine force. Perhaps not all just like that, but increasing numbers of individuals. Does that answer your question?
Shraddhavan, as it is Mother and Sri Aurobindo were like this,
Yes.
embodied being, so even now people may be there, which we do not know.
Yes, it's possible. Secretly. Yes.
And did he imagine the mother as one of the avatars of Savitri? The way he's describing Savitri and the mother.
Our mother is an embodiment of the Supreme Divine Mother. Yes. And Savitri is also. So this is a story which in his letters he makes very clear. It actually has nothing to do with the biography of Sri Aurobindo and the mother, although many people like to make these parallels, no? But the role is the same. Yeah. Yes, Subbu.
all themselves change, and magic order come, overtopping these mechanical evils. A mightier race shall inhabit the mortal world.
So when this stage is reached, when supermind is the fountain of the nature of the individual embodied being, then everything's going to change. Our world is in such a mess today. No? So we look forward to this change when a magic order, a harmony, an order will come which goes far beyond, overtopping, exceeding this apparently mechanical universe which runs according to the laws of physics and the laws of nature. No? A mightier race than our present humanity will inhabit the mortal's world, the world of ignorance and death. Dhanalakshmi.
On nature's luminous tops, on the spirit's top, the superman shall reign as king of life. Make earth almost to the mate and peer heaven, and lead towards God and prove man's ignorant power, and lift it towards Godhead his mortality.
So this seems to prophesy the coming of a superhuman race, no? Beyond the achievement of the highest achievement of present humanity. A mightier race shall inhabit the mortal's world. And so instead of humanity being the leading species, the king of life, it will be the next species. The Superman shall reign as king of life. And the effect of that higher consciousness ruling life on earth will be to lift earth up so that it's almost the mate, the spouse, and the peer, the equal of heaven. And the task of those higher beings, of that higher race, will be to lead human beings towards God and truth, and to lift our mortal state in the grip of ignorance and death towards Godhead, towards divine individuality. Corinne.
A power released from circumscribing bounds, heights which shall be harmed, death will reach. Life's stars shall flame with immortal stars. Light shall invade darkness of space.
Yes. So this is the transformation of life. Life will be a power which is set free from circumscribing bounds, from limitations. No? And on its highest levels, it will be pushed up beyond death's hungry reach. It will not be subject to this alternation, this process of death, which at present is an essential part of the way life works on earth. No? The forms have to die.
So this will be immortal beings.
There will
be immortal.
At least.
If they want to change their form.
Yes, yes. They will not be in the grip of death.
Death will not decide. Probably they will decide.
They should decide. Yes. So the higher levels of life, life's top, will flame with the immortal's thoughts. There will be all kinds of new possibilities there. That's on the highest levels. And at the same time, light, the divine light, will invade the darkness of its base. At the moment, the lower levels of life full of falsehood and distortion, cruelty, perversion. The base of the life impulses are at the moment very, very dark, but they will be invaded by divine light. This will be the transformation of life. This will help to make possible a divine life upon earth in the material universe.
So this will be for other people who have not achieved supermind? Or is it for the...
This is for evolution. This is the levels of nature's possibilities. Sergei.
Then, in the process of evolving time, all shall be drawn into a single cloud. A divine harmony shall be God's law, beauty and joy mold your way to live. Even the body shall remember God. Nature shall draw back from mortality, and spirit's fires shall guide the God's light force. Knowledge shall bring into the experience God a high proximity to truth and God.
Yes. So he's talking about the process of evolving time, the unfolding of the divine plan. And when this transformation begins to come about, then everything will be drawn into a single plan. At the moment there are many, many different movements moving in different directions and seem to be clashing and not harmonized. But then a divine harmony will become the law of earth. And beauty and joy will remold, completely reshape the life of the earth. So that even the body, even the physical body, the human body, maybe even animal bodies, will remember God, remember that immanent dwelling within them. And nature shall draw back from mortality. She will maybe not need to make use of death so much. Spirit's fires, the energy and light and force and aspiration of the fires of the spirit will be guiding this blind consciousness which works in earth nature at the moment. It is moving things forward. It is driving evolution forward. It is organizing the species. But if that blind force is replaced by a conscious force, then that will be a very big change.
I have a question. Does it mean that the evolution and the transformation of humanity to the supermental, this will happen through the teachings of the supermental beings who come first? Or is it because of the very focus on human unity that then everybody thinks and changes the perspective together to achieve and it will happen? Or is it only through the process of some individual?
What we see now in the world is a kind of dominance of mind. And this is even a not very illumined mind. There are illumined individuals, but the general mind which is dominating the earth consciousness at the moment is rather an ignorant mind. Nevertheless, this ignorant mind has had such an immense effect on all the rest of nature. So what we can look forward to is to a more conscious mind, supermind, taking this leading place. And then I believe that all the dreadful harm we are doing to the earth at present, it can be healed by that higher harmony, everything brought back into a much more natural state.
His question was like, it will be the individual development or the development of the...
It's always the two things go together, no? There's the possibilities which nature allows, and then there's the development of the individual souls, making use of that instrumentation of nature, and everything is moving forward. The forward movement happens through the individual movements forward. But the possibilities of nature are universal. And that's what we have seen, that the universal possibilities have evolved. At one time there was only matter. Consciousness was there but couldn't express itself. Then there's several levels of life develop. That gives more possibility for individual consciousnesses to express, discover, develop themselves. And mind has enlarged that very much more, but it can be enlarged much, much more as we reach the higher possibilities of mind, spiritual mind, illumined mind, intuition, overmind, supermind.
The sense of human unity has also increased. Earlier, like, we used to hardly, many people think of human unity and humanness as a complete human race.
We think of it as a kind of ideal. We don't really experience human unity yet.
Like looking for the earth as such and woman, which is good for the whole humanity. Thought is quite seriously coming up.
I mean, we hold this as a kind of ideal, but actually each individual human, normally, except in special moments, is thinking about his own needs. And we may feel some sympathy and understanding for those who are suffering. We don't really experience human unity.
But what I mean, it is much more than it was earlier.
Definitely.
Earlier periods of human life.
Well, yes, surely. But it has still a long way to go.
Long way.
And here in Auroville we are devoted to this ideal of human unity. But still, look at all the amount of quarreling and misunderstanding and meanness and all kinds of imperfections that are still there. So there's still a long way to go before we can really talk about human unity. What's going on now is globalization in a way, not just in the commercial sense, but in the sense of the different countries being more connected. We know more about each other. But the real sense of oneness, which is what Aurobindo means by human unity, can only be developed when very large numbers of people are in contact with their divine self and feel its oneness with everybody else. It's when we find the soul that we begin to know what human unity is, because it's only in the soul that we are one. Otherwise we are all these diverse individualities. And they are connected, but we are usually not aware of that connection.
So the slow process of evolution of humanity to the supermental being, that aside from that, once the individuals who achieve the supermental state before the rest of the people do, is that just a byproduct of the evolution and nothing in the world will really change until the final last person on earth achieves the supermental
The fulfillment will not be achieved until matter is totally divinized. But we can have a much more divine life upon earth And progress of all kinds, it always happens like that. That's what Aurobindo's symbol shows, no? That there's usually one individual at the head. That we were lucky we had two, but then there's a few who are able to follow closely behind them, and then that carries the rest further on. And depending on the advancement of these few who are at the apex of the triangle, then there's a descent, a corresponding descent of greater universal possibilities, which affects everybody, whether they're aware of it or not. Let's go on with the text. It was knowledge. I think here the word knowledge has to have a K because it's at the beginning of the line. But I think it also means knowledge in the spiritual sense, knowledge as opposed to ignorance. So knowledge will bring into the aspiring thought, the more and more aspiring thought, a high proximity to truth and God. Even the mental capacities will become closer to being able to be in touch with truth, which is mentally unseizable, more in touch with the divine. Yes, Ton, yes.
Again, but it's not the last exchange of thoughts, but previous.
Yes.
If I understood well, the conclusion was it's because of the individual souls who are developing. That's the change, the individual souls. And my question is then, what's then the role of the spirit and the collective? Because
well, one individual can make progress, but if many individuals with a similar aspiration are close together in contact, they can make a much greater progress than they could do if they were scattered around. It creates a collective atmosphere, collective aspiration. That's what's supposed to happen here.
That's what the symbol of Aurobindo represents, the cycle of the
yes.
light moving up and then coming back down. Well, that represents how the consciousness is evolved, the path is evolved.
I mean, that's the purpose of Auroville. So we can say that any individual can aspire for a divine life and do their own sadhana and their own tapasya and make a great deal of progress, even if they're out of touch with anybody else who's on the same line. But Mother and Aurobindo have created this place to to offer an opportunity for such aspirants to come together and to build up a collective atmosphere and to make a further progress, and at the same time perhaps have a greater impact on the rest of humanity. I have a little image in my head for this, that if you want to light a fire, you have a piece of paper. If you happen to have a magnifying glass, you can focus the rays of the sun on one spot on that piece of paper, and then the molecules on that spot will heat up and gradually they'll burst into fire, and then the whole piece of paper will burn up. So I think the purpose of Auroville is something like that, as if over the Matrimandir, Mother has fixed a kind of lens that's focusing a particular force to get some work done. And if the molecules here, you and I, all of us, if we respond enough, then that can light up, and then that can spread very rapidly in the world. Perhaps now it's spreading, maybe its effect is spreading, but not very obviously or clearly. Does that respond to your question?
Sorry.
Yeah.
So I could try to understand. So I could say the spirit is the sum, is the total of the individual souls. And that was what I was not understanding till now.
And yet I don't think that's quite right. I mean, some people think of the divine like that, as the sum of all souls. I think the spirit is more the atmosphere which souls breathe. It's a very inadequate way of doing it, of saying it, but what allows souls to grow and flourish, it's this all-pervading atmosphere of spirit. Of course, we talk about a spirit and the spirit, then it's more complicated. But if we are talking about it in a general way.
So humans don't make the spirit, and the spirit makes the human.
Exactly. We are not the cause of much. We are just the instruments through which this whole process is happening. But still, we have something to contribute, each one of us.
Even in Savitri there is a sentence, no? One man's perfection
Still can save the world.
Say it again.
One man's perfection still can save the world.
I don't know whether this is an absolute statement, but it's a perception that comes in a particular spiritual realization. So let's go on. What's the next sentence? Slava, I think, is to read. Will you read?
The supermind shall claim the board for light, and will be love of God, the immobile, the
Heart.
sorry, and lights fall on nature, lifted head, and found light raging of your unshaking grace.
Yes. We can ask what is meant by the word light in this sentence, this light with a capital L. I think this is divine consciousness. So the supermind will claim this whole world for light. It should all be filled with light. It should belong to light. And the supermind will make all our hearts, all hearts, fall in love with God, thrill with love of God. And the supermind will place the crown of light, of divine consciousness, on the head of nature, which perhaps is bowed and focused on the earth, but it will be lifted up and wear this crown of higher consciousness. And the supermind will found will establish the reign, the rule of divine consciousness on nature's unshaking base, this firm basis of matter that she has established. I think we will stop there for today.
The Immanent shall be the witness God, watching on his many-petalled lotus-throne, his actionless being and his silent might, ruling earth nature by eternity's law. A thinker waking the inconscient's world, an immobile center of many infinitudes in his thousand-pillared temple by time's sea. Then shall the embodied being live as one who is a thought, a will of the divine, a mask or robe of his divinity, an instrument and partner of his force, a point or line drawn in the infinite, a manifest of the imperishable. The supermind shall be his nature's fount. The eternal's truth shall mould his thoughts and acts. The eternal's truth shall be his light and guide. All then shall change, a magic order come, overtopping this mechanical universe. A mightier race shall inhabit the mortal's world. On nature's luminous tops, on the spirit's ground, the Superman shall reign as king of life. Make earth almost the mate and peer of heaven, and lead towards God and truth man's ignorant heart, and lift towards Godhead his mortality. A power released from circumscribing bounds, its height pushed up beyond death's hungry reach, life's tops shall flame with the immortal's thoughts, light shall invade the darkness of its base. Then, in the process of evolving time, all shall be drawn into a single plan. A divine harmony shall be earth's law. Beauty and joy remold her way to live. Even the body shall remember God, Nature shall draw back from mortality, and Spirit's fires shall guide the earth's blind force. Knowledge shall bring into the aspirant thought a high proximity to truth and God. The supermind shall claim the world for light, and thrill with love of God the enamored heart, and place light's crown on nature's lifted head, and found light's reign on her unshaking base.